morning. I am driving after our long night of tornado watches and warnings and windy weather. And now it's snowing. So it was like 80 degrees yesterday, and today it is snowing. Not a lot, just flurries. But yeah, we went from 80 degrees to 35 overnight. So my throat's a little bit scratchy. I'm not sick or anything, but it just happens when the weather changes like this. But the big thing is that yesterday, I pushed through. I was so exhausted, but I pushed through my line-by-line edits of my novel, my very last pass-through, by listening to it out loud and just going through and fixing any typos, any mistakes, and uploaded it to my email, and I hit send on my submission to the literary agent. I got an email this morning saying that she received it and she hopes to get back to me, within 6 weeks, which is typical. So I will keep you updated on how that goes. I am so excited. This is, I've submitted short stories and things like that before when I was younger, but as an adult, I have not submitted any of my completed works before. And so this is my first time submitting a full manuscript to a literary agent, and I am very excited to see what happens. Even if it doesn't get picked up, I learned a lot during this process, especially with all of the tools that we have now for editing and all of that. And I think that's what I'm going to talk about a little bit today as I make this drive. So I use Docs, Google Docs to write it. And I'll tell you why. 1, it's free. 2, Google Docs works very much like Word, but it's saved. So you are, so you're able to work on or offline, and it automatically saves things to the cloud for you. So even if your computer crashes, or your document glitches, or, like in Word, sometimes it'll glitch or something like that, and you can lose your document. You got to go through a whole IT thing to get it resolved, if you can get it resolved. Yay, now the snow is turning into hard sleet. That's fun. But yeah, so you can lose your document and never get it back again. But in Google Docs, there's the chance of that happening is much smaller because it saves automatically to the cloud. So I will say that when you are working in Google Docs, I would not get rid of any text. So even if you're like, oh, I don't like this line, cut it and paste it to either a different document or to another tab, because once it saves, because it keeps saving automatically, once it saves the new material, there's only so much you can undo before getting back there's only so much you can undo. And so it might save over something you erased, and you can't get that particular thing back. So I just cut, paste it into a new tab. And then speaking of tabs, that is something else that I really like Google Docs for, because you can have all these separate tabs. So I had one tab that was the glossary, one tab that was, my world building. So like all of the names of the places that they're going, a little description about each place. And then I also had a tab for just general notes and ideas that kind of come to me, so I can just, hit voice to text as I'm driving and say them out loud, and it records it in there for me. And then, I just had all these different things. And I also had a tab for journaling, about just journaling in general, about my feelings as I'm going through it. There are some parts, this is fantasy, it is fiction, but there are some parts of it that are very real, especially emotionally, and things that I've experienced, other people have experienced, just put into this form in a way that I feel kind of explains, or not even explains, but just explores the emotional side and the questioning and the self-doubt and, and the going back and forth inside one's head when they are in a DV relationship or an abusive relationship. And, even when they're at the point of leaving, like, there's so many questions. There's so much self-doubt because you've spent so long not trusting yourself or not speaking up. It becomes a very odd thing to try and step outside of your comfort zone and to all of a sudden make these decisions like you're a grown woman when you are a grown woman, but your mind doesn't really think that. So anyway, that's kind of a side tangent. But yes, so there were days where it was hard to write, and I would journal about, that would be my writing for that day. Like, I would just write about why I felt it was hard, feelings that were coming up for me. And so I found Google Docs to be very helpful for that. I did have to open multiple docs because at some point Google Docs starts to glitch out, maybe when you get around 20,000, 30,000 words, especially if you have lots of tabs open. So I just opened up another Google Doc, and then, I'd have my first one there with all of my different tabs, world building and glossary and whatever. And my second one was just, the writing. So I did that, and that was great. Especially if you're not making money on your writing, there's no need to spend a lot of money on writing. Revisions, same thing. I used Google Docs. I went through page by page, paragraph by paragraph, and then I reviewed it, copied and pasted into a new doc, got that as clean as possible, and that's what I sent out to my beta readers, my alpha readers. They sent back their feedback. Then I went through the document again, because I sent it to them in like 3 parts, part 1, 2, and 3. That way, while they were working on 1, I was working, revising part 2, and so on and so forth, so that by the time I got to the end of the book, I had lots of feedback, great feedback. I felt some of it I took, some of it I didn't, and then by that time it was finished. When I wrote those words at the end, it was because I had done the writing, my own revisions, then sent it out, revised again, and I got it to a great spot. So then after that, I used PtoWriting Aid. This was a very tedious process for me. I do not know if it is my laptop or my internet. I do live out in the country, but I have fiber. So, not fiber. I have fiber. So I didn't feel like it should be my internet, but who knows? Living out in the country, we have lots of bad weather sometimes, and it could just be that because it was the winter and we were having cold snaps and ice storms and all of that nonsense, that it was glitching out. I did lose power for several days when we had the big ice storm come through Tennessee, so I lost time in that way. But PtoWriting Aid, in order for it to work properly, and this is also what I've gathered from other people who use PtoWriting Aid, they have the same experience, that you can only put up to 1,000 words at a time in the file. And then when you want to upload your next 1,000 words, you have to open it up under the same. So you have like a main tab, and let's say novel, and then you open up a new tab under novel, and that could be chapter 1, chapter 2, so on and so forth. But I found that even 1,000 words was too much for PtoWriting Aid, and I was putting in 500 or 600 words at a time. Mind you, before I got my word count down, I had 100,000 words. So imagine, 120,000 words. So imagine how long it took me copying and pasting 500 to 600 words at a time, editing, copying, pasting that into a fresh, clean Word doc. So now I'm using a Word doc because that final document is going to go as a Word doc to the literary agent when you submit. just for, even though I have edited it in PtoWriting Aid, I am copying and pasting from PtoWriting Aid and putting it into Word, sometimes what gets pasted is not what I edited. It's the original. So I'm like, okay, well, that's me. You know, sometimes your computer glitches and it's still holding on to the last thing you copied. So I'm, doing copy several times before I paste. And still, as I was going through my final edits, I was still finding mistakes. And I know that I fixed this because I had taken notes on it, wanted to change this or add something in or remove something. And so, so my experience with PtoWriting Aid is not great. I'm going to try, and I don't know, because I have Grammarly as well, and I'm not sure that I like it when I'm writing, having all that nonsense show up when I'm writing, all the red lines and orange lines and all of this. So I'm not sure that I want to do that with PtoWriting Aid, because they do have like a version that you can download, like an app, and then it automatically kicks on when you open up a Word doc. But I might try it. I'm using the Pro version, so I'm spending, $30 odd a month on it, and I'm going to try that, and if it doesn't work, I'm going to cancel it, because for me, I just felt like it added an extra step that in the end became kind of, unnecessary, because I had to end up doing it again during my final edit. So anyway, I do all of that, I get it edited, and I have the Word document. So now I'm going to go through, formatted everything, and I hit the audio, read to me button. And this is a feature in Word, and I think they also have it in Google Docs and other programs as well, where it does text to speech. So it will read your words to you. And it's a very computerized voice, and it's hilarious because there's like grim, dark stuff happening, and the voice is like, da, 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 da. But it's great because you can listen to your document and it will pick up, just like if you were to read your words out loud, you will pick up, oh, I missed the to. Oh, that word should be from, and I wrote form. So it picks up all of that stuff as well. And it was great because then you're not like exhausting your voice to read out loud, and you're hearing it from a voice that's not your own. So I find that even as I'm reading out loud, my brain will automatically fix grammatical errors so that I can read, because our brains are amazing that way. But it doesn't help when I'm trying to edit. So having that was pivotal. That, I think, was the most important part of my editing, because I picked up typos, things, where I transcribe things backwards, but then also in copying and pasting into the Word doc, some things were double pasted. And so that's why I'm wondering if maybe it was my internet glitching or something like that. I had whole passages when I opened up the Word doc after I had everything pasted in there. It was over 100. It was like 119,000 words. And some of that was because I had several passages that were duplicated. And so listening to it out loud was great, because all of a sudden, when you're reading something or listening to something and it starts repeating itself, you're like, what was that? So I go back, fix it. But then I also would sit down and read while it was speaking, and I could see if some of the formatting got messed up and I had needed a paragraph, indent here or there, or if there was too much space between paragraphs, little things like that, that can be really annoying to, a literary agent when they're trying to read your manuscript. You want it as clean as possible when you're turning it in. So it was great for that. And when I finally got to the end of that yesterday, I think I almost cried. Where it read out the words "the end" and then epilogue, and so that was great, and I felt really good about it at that point. Then the thing you're going to want to do after that is to then go through. All of your edits are done. You've accepted any of the grammatical changes you want, and any of the red lines left, like if you have Grammarly, are going to be, or orange lines, are going to be things that's your style of writing. It wants to change your style of writing because it's a computer program and that's what it does. But everyone has their own unique style of writing or saying things, and each of your characters has a unique way of thinking and saying things, so you want to keep that in there. You don't want every single sentence and every single paragraph and every single POV to sound exactly the same. So ignore that. You will want to go through and look at all of your chapter headings and make sure they're on a new page, and make sure they're not like halfway down the second page, because as you're editing and moving things around, or even like fixing the spaces between paragraphs, those things will kind of get messed up. A great way to do that is each of your chapter headings, as you're going through, make them a heading in Word doc, and then make the title of your chapter, if you choose to have chapter titles, make that a heading 2, and that way you can just click on it in the sidebar navigation bar, and you can see where it is on the page, fix it, clean it up, and then you're done. You are done. I am done. And hit submit. Oh my goodness, I was so happy. I hit submit. I cheered, jumped around the house, made myself some hot chocolate, and binge watched it. Welcome to Dairy. And yeah, so that's what I did last night, and now I'm heading to work, and that was my experience with PtoWriting Aid and text-to-speech. And happy writing out there, everybody. I have another novel, that I'm working on, but this one is still, it's very, 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 very raw. It's not even a skeleton. I have to outline it. I have to do world building. I have the general gist idea of the story. I have the blurb of the story in my mind. But I will start working on that at some point, not right now. I'm taking a break, except for, all of my stuff on Substack, and writing in that way. But for now, I'm taking a break. I'm going to enjoy sleeping at night when I can, or during the day when I can, depending on my schedule. And yeah, so that's it for today. You all have a great day. I hope your weather wasn't bad last night. I hope your weather is not bad today. Keep writing.